Take it to the limit. Give everything you got to give, no matter how you spin it. We only get one life to live, and all it takes is a spark to set the night on fire. Release your heart's desire. Flames getting higher. Wildfire.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nicholas Snow Show on PromoHomo.TV. You've just saw the new opening of the Nicholas Snow Show. I chose that music because it makes me cry, but this episode, frankly, could make me cry if I didn't compose myself, because my guest today is just such an amazingly special person, and a lot of people who see this show, this particular episode, will tune in just because of how special he is. Brad Fuhr. Of course, the whole show's about Brad Fuhr, but I just want to start by saying what I think is not an exaggeration, but I like to say that jaws are undoubtedly dropping around the world when people discover on their smart speakers KGAY 106.5 Palm Springs. Headquartered right here in Palm Springs, which could arguably, I think, be called the gay capital of the world, the LGBTQ plus capital of the world. By the way, my pronouns are he, him, and his. Forgot to put that in there. So, at the helm of KGAY and sister company Gay Desert Guide is media entrepreneur Brad Fuhr, and his current success is built upon decades of commitment to making the world a better place. And he started his radio career with a fascination of the technical aspects of radio when getting his FCC third-class license at age 14, and started at his hometown radio station, WBCH, on his 15th birthday. And now he and I both live in Palm Springs, California, and GayDesertGuide.lgbt and KGAY 106.5 Palm Springs are huge here, and add PromoHomo.TV into the mix, and we've got a really powerful partnership. So you're going to definitely stay tuned for Brad. For their support of my show, I want to thank DAP Health. One of their value statements: we welcome all people, period. And of course, 849 Restaurant and Lounge, Willie Ryan and John Pascal on North Palm Canyon. Love them. And Willie's new restaurant, Willie's Place in Rancho Mirage. Actually, I don't think that's the official name, but Willie's in Rancho Mirage opens Friday the 18th. The LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert. I'm a proud media sponsor of them. And this week, Wednesday, their Red Dress tickets go on sale. Their Red Dress Red tickets go on sale. They will sell out. So you want to go to thecentercv.org to learn how to bid on those tickets on Wednesday the 16th. I'm a proud media sponsor year-round of Palm Springs Pride. Find them at pspride.org and find 4 complete Pride parades at PromoHomo.TV. For their support in amplifying the show throughout the Twitterverse, I want to thank hashtag I Love Gay, Matt Scalarud, Fabrice Descendo, and of course my media partners, KGAY 106.5 Palm Springs, the I Love Gay Palm Springs podcast, and Gay Desert Guide. And for those of you with t-shirt envy, you don't have to envy me. Go to PromoHomo.TV, click on merch, or go to Amazon and search for official PromoHomo.TV. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook during a video, you'll see a bell. Click on that bell and you'll get alerted to live broadcasts when they happen. Follow me across social media. So this program, this network would not exist if it weren't for the PromoHomo.TV Superstars, which gives people the opportunities to subscribe to the network for as little as $10 a month. And I'm throwing a big subscriber thank you party the afternoon of Sunday, April 24th at 849. And it's also celebrating my 60th birthday party. But the people that get invited are the people who subscribe. And if you're from outside the area and you can't make it to the party, I'm going to create a way for you to connect to that event virtually and be on camera if you want to be. And it's so appropriate that Brad is on the show today because Brad is the very first person who became one of the PromoHomo.TV superstars. And I've put together a surprise for all the superstars. This isn't one of the perks I promised them, but they're getting it. And here it is. I just love them. And I also want you to know, before I bring Brad on, if you are watching live on February 14th, happy Valentine's Day 2022, and you comment in the comments, hashtag KGAY, that's today's hashtag, I'll do a drawing at the end of the show. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let me welcome to the show Brad Fuhr. Hi, Brad.
Well, good morning to you, and great to see your face. And thank you for that great intro. That was fun.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. We started off with a baby photo of you. My goodness.
Yeah.
So you literally this morning just heard that you're getting an award, and I'd love to break the news here. So what did you learn today?
So I'm going to be inducted into the Illini Media Hall of Fame for Illini Media Company. That's at the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. And back from 1992 to 1995, about 3.5 years, I was the sales manager, general manager of this student-run commercial radio station. It's one of the few in the country that are actually both student-run and a commercial radio station. And we had just fantastic success. It was the time that alternative rock music was just exploding in the 90s. So we had Pearl Jam, we had all these great artists, U2, and big artists, small artists like Toad the Wet Sprocket, right? So all these artists were exploding. Our radio station had the highest share of any alternative radio station in the country. And what I'm really most proud of, and I think the reason that this award means so much to me, and one of the reasons they're giving it to me, is because I was able to nurture and foster many students that have become very successful in the radio industry. And I'm really so proud of that. In fact, one was here visiting Palm Springs last week, Joanne Pasdersky, Joanne now works at one of the radio stations doing evenings in Chicago. She also works for United Airlines, but she was a traffic reporter in Chicago. She's had this rich career in radio, as have many of the students. And these students have become friends because now they have children of their own. They're in their 40s and approaching 50 because it's been that many years ago. And it's that's the rewarding part of helping get all these people into a career in broadcasting.
Well, that's amazing, and congratulations. One of my one of your fellow superstars who supports the network, and he's become a friend of mine, says you and I need to make time to talk about my radio show experience. I was disabled advocate for people with cerebral palsy. I was with WOL 1450 AM talk radio, and he was out at the time as well. So that's really powerful. Another pioneer. Where was your hometown, Brad?
So it's a small town in Michigan. For those of us in the LGBTQ community, you'd know it best as it's about an hour east of Saugatuck, Michigan, which is the kind of the gay Palm Springs of the Midwest. It's where the people from Chicago and Detroit congregate in the summer. Michael Holmes from Purple Room had a very successful club there over the years and performed there for a number of years. But it's a small town. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. There are no freeways in the entire county. So it's very rural, and my hometown radio station happened to be owned by people that went to our church. And I was really interested, as you mentioned, in the technical side of radio at age 14. So I got this FCC license. So I had to learn all about plate current and amps and all this stuff. And I was good at math, so I was able to do that. And kind of, I was the geeky guy that being on the radio was kind of cool, but playing with all the knobs and the buttons and the tape players, that was the part that excited me. Then I learned how to be a disc jockey and a news person, and eventually ended up going to college for it, and that kind of launched my career.
Okay, well, we have one of your fans watching. Matthew Fadden says, I love listening to KGAY. I can't believe how far we've come in the civil rights movement. And, when you were so young, you and I have known each other for a long time. And preparing for this morning, I was thinking, if we looked back decades, A, we wondered if we would still be here. And B, did you ever think that you would live in one of the gay meccas on the planet as a major media force?
Well, thank you. I think I've made a mark here in Palm Springs, and I like what I'm doing, and I think it's rewarding to be recognized for what I'm doing. But in terms of thinking about that, as kids, you and I aren't. You're a decade younger than me, but we didn't have role models. We didn't have anyone that we could turn to. We didn't even know what gay was really as young people. As I started my radio career, relationships and trying to figure out sexuality was just kind of happening at the same time that my career was happening. I moved a lot. I went from city to city trying to move up in the world. But it really took me years. It really took until the AIDS crisis, I think, until I started recognizing what was happening in the world. And I think that gave me somewhat of a shove into wanting to be out to friends and family.
And at what point did you become out in your industry?
Boy, so that it's an interesting story that I'm in the broadcasting industry, and many artists and management people and tons of radio people and music industry people are LGBTQ. Years ago, our program director at KGAY, Chris Schiebel, started a group called FOD, Friends of Dorothy. And our goal was to get together all the LGBTQ people we knew in the radio industry, most of whom were closeted and couldn't be out without being fired or ostracized from their jobs. They were maybe in small market radio or in big music companies like Warner Brothers Music. And so he started that group, and we literally had a newsletter that got mailed out to us back for years and years. And we would get together secretly at broadcasting conventions. And we would all get together and go out for dinner, go out to the gay bars. And, at some point, some new guy would walk in that we recognized from the conference. And we're like, all right, you're part of our FOD group now. We've you're in our family now. So, that was how we got together as a community in the radio and records industry. And I think your question was more along the lines of when did I really come out in the industry? And I think it was not too long after I came out to my parents, which was almost age 30. I waited until that long into the mid to late 80s before coming out.
Had you come out to yourself and started having a gay life, or is that when you first started to experience gay life at all?
No, actually, I'd pretty much every stop along the way, I knew I was gay. I sometimes had girlfriends. I never had boyfriends, but I certainly had some girlfriends and close women friends and close friends along the way. But most of the towns I was living in were small Midwest cities, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Rockford, Illinois, where you really couldn't be out. And there was maybe a gay bar if you were lucky. But being an air personality, a lot of times you didn't even feel safe going out to those.
Wow. We could talk a lot about your life linearly. Say that word for me.
Linearly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But you've provided me with some photos, and I want to bring them up. I just want to bring up some of these photos and have you tell me a little bit about it. And I want to let you know that this particular photo scares me, at least part of it. There we go. Oh. So Ann Coulter looks like Satan in that photo.
He does,
which shouldn't be surprising. So tell me about this moment.
So this is the University of Judaism, I think it is, in Westwood, UJ. It's a Jewish university, and they did a speaker series, and the guy who ran it was gay, and we became friends. And when I was running K Talk in Los Angeles, AM 1150, the progressive talk station, Al was one of our radio hosts. And so we had Al facing off with Ann Coulter in a debate. And these debates were on stage. And I have to tell you, look, there was a lot of fireworks that flew back and forth between the two of them, but it was always respectful. And I can't imagine those two in the room today, how that would be a much different dynamic. But that series at the university was something that we participated in. And I got photos.
Okay, so I'm bringing up another image here, and I know the story behind it, but for people that are now benefiting from Gay Desert Guide and KGAY, I think that this is a good photo to talk about.
So this was my first real trip to Palm Springs. It was called a FAM trip in the industry. It's when the Bureau of Tourism brings in writers and journalists from around the world to learn about Palm Springs and to go back and write about it. At the time, I was working for Windy City Times doing some freelance work in Chicago. That was the
Was Tracy Baim involved at that point?
Oh yeah, she owned it. So that was her.
Oh,
she's still,
okay.
To this day, they're doing online.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But I wanted to. I'd spent some time in Palm Springs, and she sent me out to do this writing assignment. Kerry Harrison was a friend of mine, and he was in LA. He came along. We actually had writers from Switzerland, from Germany, from all over the globe. Unfortunately, it was June in Palm Springs, which is not exactly the height of tourist season. And this was back in like 2003. So it was pretty hot out here. and we got to visit CCBC. Did you see that one photo that I put in there?
I did, and I made a choice not to use it. Giant penises ejaculating
penis arch,
an archway.
Right.
Is that still there?
No, it's long gone. So there,
Okay.
one of the people on our fam trip was a woman, a lesbian writer, and she went with us to all the clothing optional resorts. And every day, our day started with John Williams, who used to own Indulge, picking us up in the van, our group. We'd go somewhere for breakfast, and then our day would be touring probably 5 to 7 gay resorts, and then lunch, and then we'd go off and do something like the Tramway or Indian Canyon. But that was my first trip to Palm Springs, and oh so long ago.
I didn't load it up, but while I look for the picture, tell me about how you came to know and work with a wonderful friend of ours, Matt Skallerud.
Boy, I'm trying to remember the first time Matt and I met. It was in Los Angeles when he was back with, Advocate Out, all those magazines. He was running the digital side of that. And he started, what was it? What was the name of the network that he started? You would know.
Well, because I worked with him starting in the mid-90s. He started GayWired.com, which evolved into G Society during the .com investment phase.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the .bomb happened, and he and Fabrice extricated themselves from that merger mess.
Right.
And at the time, that's when he launched Pink Banana Media, which became Pink Media, and then the parent company of The Advocate and Out purchased their companies, and then Matt and Fabrice worked with them for a great period of time. Fabrice was an executive with Here Media for quite a while.
Right.
Matt was initially an executive with them, but then was working on his own independent projects, which has evolved dramatically, as you know, and has become the hashtag I Love Gay
everything
campaign
right.
guru.
Right. Oh, I love him. Yeah.
Yes.
So Matt and I first, when I was in Los Angeles, I helped produce the first morning show on Sirius XM OutQ. When SiriusXM launched, they decided to do an LGBTQ channel, and my business partner and radio host Carrie Harrison, we created the first morning show, and we brought in a lesbian co-host. We brought in all these people, and we were at the MCC Church on Santa Monica Boulevard. We literally took a little upstairs area and created a studio, and every day we'd broadcast back to New York the morning show. And our morning show was 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific time, 9 till noon. And it was during that time that I think I first met Matt Skallerud, when I was back and forth between Los Angeles and Chicago, where I was living at the time. But that was our morning show, and it was, talk, and it was a lot of fun. So that was one of my dives into LGBTQ media. Before that, I actually ran Les by Gay Radio in Chicago, and that was also part of a not-for-profit, because I've worked for a lot of not-for-profits over the years. But that was a not-for-profit radio station. We brought airtime on 2 AM radio stations and did an afternoon drive show. A brilliant man named Alan Amberg, who I'm still close with today. Alan created that and put together a board of directors that helped guide that. And, every day we would have different hosts on the air. For example, we would match up a drag queen and, a gay man. Alexandra Billings was one of our hosts on the station. And so we just had a great time with that. And that kind of helped launch my ability to do the show on Sirius OutQ. We actually pitched it to XM Radio too, when they were competitors. But that did not happen.
Well, here we are in Palm Springs, and you were involved with KGAY when they launched, and they had different ownership at the time. And then there was, I'll call it a difference of opinion,
Yeah.
and key people parted ways,
Yep.
including you. But you
Yeah.
still collaborated with them, but not as significantly.
Well,
And
no,
now you own the place.
well, now I own the place. So there was something called Qchella Media that was started back in 2018 by a gentleman out of Seattle, an LGBT or a gay man whose uncle was one of the owners of KGAY and another station here in the market. And they had an idea to create LGBTQ programming, to create a not for profit around that with the radio stations. At one time, this was about the time that Channel Q was starting from Entercom. And so they looked at collaborating. They actually had offices and studios in the same building. Ultimately, the two companies could not come together. Channel Q did their thing. I came on as the general manager of what became KGAY. It was it's 106.5. It was an oldie station. I helped develop the board. We had a number of community people that were on our board of directors. But ultimately, there was a difference of opinion on how to run the radio station, how the not-for-profit would interact with the owners. And yes, me and the team, we walked away. That was just before Pride in 2019. It was Shan and John and I were on the air one morning, and it just became untenable. We left. We went and had a day drinking episode at Street Bar that day. And there was born the I Love Gay Palm Springs podcast. So during the time that we were off KGAY, we really did not collaborate very much. And I had some connection with the people who were here and the owners. But eventually, we did the podcast for 100 and some episodes during the pandemic. And then just over a year ago, I was able to get back in touch with the owners. The Qchella Media not-for-profit had fallen apart by then, had dissolved. And the owners were trying to operate this thing during COVID. They didn't really have experience in LGBTQ media. And they started talking to me about whether I would be interested in buying the radio station. They are in their 80s. They were ready to kind of pass the torch along. And they always had the vision that this should be in LGBTQ hands, even though both of them identify as straight men in their 80s. So I was able to buy the radio station. I took it over August 1st in what's called an LMA. And then December 31st, literally on New Year's Eve, we were signing the papers because we got FCC approval. And come January 1, it was mine, all mine.
Which I'm sure gave you a cause to jump for joy and nightmares.
Yeah, it's a business ownership. I've been through it. Gay Desert Guide has been going on for 9+ years now. And so I started that from literally nothing. We started with, no audience, just the kernel of an idea for a website and one other person working with me. And now between the two companies, we have almost 20 people that are on staff. And so we make a significant impact, I believe, in the community by doing what we do and supporting what we support.
Well, I really appreciate everything that you do for the community. By the way, do you have any haters?
I think we all do. It's unfortunate. It does keep me up at night sometimes. I try to what happened, why somebody who used to advertise doesn't advertise, and you don't know a reason. I think everybody has their detractors, and so I try not to worry about it too much because there is a great community of people. We all support, Nicholas, we all support and love each other, and we do good in the community. And I think those of us who do good in this community know that we're doing good, and we're recognized for that.
So the reason I ask that is because, when I do a broadcast, I then will amplify the broadcast by sharing it to appropriate Facebook groups, among other things.
Sure.
And if it is relevant for a particular group, I will share an episode into that group. And so I recently interviewed someone from Palm Springs, and I shared it into a Palm Springs Facebook group. And a few days later, yesterday, I ended up getting a comment, and in reference to my post, this person said something like, "This post is ungodly long. Who the hell cares about so and so," which was the guest. And Nicholas Snow is such a supreme narcissist. So that was like, okay, then he went out of his way to be nice and kind. And,
Oh dear.
you know, I have to confess that people could, if people wanted to view me as a narcissist, there's evidence for that. I don't own that title, but you know, I am a PromoHomo, and it's like I looked up the definition of narcissist, and one of them is that you have an intense need for attention. Well, you know, what activated me in the early 80s was the realization that life is precious, life is finite, life could be short, and that I need to make it matter. And I was a communications major at ASU, and at the time, that life experience, very painful and turbulent with my academic education, helped me to see that really the greatest power I could yield was my own truth, my own voice. And if I didn't do that, none of this other stuff, this decades of media about other people, would not have happened.
And that's a great point, Nicholas. And you know, I know of many people that I have interacted with that pushed the envelope throughout the decades. I remember one gentleman in Chicago that used to go to the city clerk's office or the county clerk's office and try to apply for a marriage certificate just because he knew that he would, you know, be denied and kicked out, and he had that fodder to kind of, you know, keep the fires burning a little bit and get people riled up. And I used to think of people like that. You know, you're pushing too hard, and you've got to just kind of go with the flow and, you know, work within the system to make things happen. That's Harvey Milk taught us that that's not the way to do it. You've got to be out and loud and proud, and you've got to make some noise. And you know, I think there are some regrets that I probably wasn't out enough and loud enough over the years. But I think what I was able to do is use literally the mouthpiece, the microphones of radio stations and, you know, Sirius satellite radio and social media to let other people get their voices heard, and to really help our cause, our LGBTQ plus causes over the decades. And I'm really proud of what you and I and many others have been able to do in media to make that case for us.
Well, I'm proud of you and honored to collaborate with you. You know, I have to say, I do not have a thick skin. So when I get that sort of attack, it is difficult for me to kind of disengage from it. Yeah. But one of the things I've learned in the public eye is that I decided not to participate in conversations about me if they're not with me. And to not participate in them if they're with me, if they're not done in a respectful way. And what I think is unique in both of our situations is that we do not require people to consume our content. It's a completely opt-in experience. Right. And if they happen to see it, they can opt out. There are tools for them to do that.
Right.
So I'm going to take a very short break, but during this break, because I want the viewers to know what's some new programming that's coming up on the Nicholas Snow Show, but during the break, think about some key points that you would like to make in the home stretch of the interview. And in particular, I'd like to know if there are one or two really significant turning points that really changed the trajectory of your life and brought you to where we are now. So I'll be back with Brad Fuhr after this preview of something that's coming up on the Nicholas Snow Show here on PromoHomo.TV. So there you have it. The Snowstorm, which is basically a Hot
I love
Topics
it.
panel show that I'll be doing regularly coming up. And if
Lovely.
you want to say that again,
Lovely.
thank you. So Brad, what are a couple of key moments in your life that really changed your? Oh, by the way, one of my other superstars and great friends, he just signed up as a patron this month, is Paul Jasic. He has a new YouTube show called Basic Jasic,
Oh,
and
nice.
he is a stand-up comic and an actor, and he does an amazing tarot. As a matter of fact, 10 a.m. on Tuesdays, he has Tarot Tuesday from his page.
How fun.
So, what are some pivotal moments that changed the trajectory of your life, Brad?
Well, I really believe that coming out to my family and then my friends really was the pivotal moment that gave me the freedom to move about the country, as Southwest Airlines would say, and really start to embrace who I was, and then then the wheels started turning. Like, what can I do with this? What am I passionate about? One of the first things that I went to was the March on Washington, which was what, 2000, I think it was.
Well,
That
they had
we had
several of
several,
them.
but I think this one was probably around 2000, because I was in Chicago at the time. Melissa Etheridge performed. She's going to be out here in a couple of
I was
weeks.
at that march.
Yep.
And Matt Skallerud was actually, I don't
Matt
think
was
know if
there.
Matt went, but I went along with Karen Ocam in to represent G Society to that march.
Oh yeah.
And the only place that I could get a hotel room, because it was kind of a last minute thing for me to go, was at the Watergate Hotel.
Oh my gosh, I've stayed there myself. But
Yes.
I think the thing about that was not only did my friends go, including Harry Legg, who's the voice guy for KGAY, and his partner. My partner and I at the time were there. My parents came along, and
Wow.
that made all the difference. Um,
Wow.
to just have, and I've got this wonderful picture. It's one of those panoramic pictures that you could take with some weird camera back in the early 2000s. It's me and my partner and my parents and our little protest sign. One of my friends took it, and I keep that in my bedroom as a constant reminder of where I came from. So I think not only coming out, in the 90s, but then that event where my parents could be and see my friends, my gay LGBTQ friends, and experience what we were going through. That really was one of the big pivotal moments for me. My mom went on to protest in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is a very conservative town. She and her friends would protest for LGBTQ rights and other rights. They were involved heavily in PFLAG. I was involved in PFLAG in Chicago. I helped restart the Chicago chapter. That I think those kind of things were pivotal. I think the other thing is that that experience with Sirius Satellite Radio and doing the LGBT morning show. It was unheard of to do LGBTQ specific programming, and so when we did that on Sirius Satellite Radio, there were a number of hosts. Michael Signorelli is still on the air. There are a number of people that have gone on to other careers, but we did it with a complete show. And then that experience took me to Clear Channel iHeartRadio, where we did an all music channel called Pride Radio, which is a lot like what KGAY is today.
Wow. I have some parallels a little bit with your story. So I went to the 1993 March on Washington, and it was 3 days before I went into the studio to create the first episode of Tinseltown's Queer, my LA-based public access TV show that was aired throughout most of the 90s. That's what connected me ultimately to Matt Skallerud. But being the narcissist that I am, on April 25th, 1993, happened to be my birthday. So I had a giant sign with rainbow flags on it that said, "Welcome to my birthday party." And I had a lot of people run up to me, and it was their birthday as well. And they wanted to be in the photo with my birthday party banner.
How fun.
And then ultimately, after a lot of turbulence over decades, my mother and my stepfather came to LGBTQ Pride in LA, and they sat with me on the media reviewing stand, and we
Oh,
watched the parade
yeah.
together. And I was
Yeah.
performing at LGBTQ comedy night in the belly room at the Comedy Store, and came and watched me do my stand up, and I had a big party, and they met lots of my friends, and it's really powerful when we have those moments with family,
Sure.
and we didn't know that those relationships would or could last. And ultimately, as each of us come out, we create a space for conversation, and out of those conversations, in most of the times, come understanding, enlightenment, love, and acceptance.
It's well put. Thank you. Very well put.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Brad, that we haven't talked about?
Well, I think to bring it up to today, I'm really proud of the team we've put together. We're recording this on Monday, February the 14th, and this afternoon, in real time, DJ Galaxy, who's a member of our team, and Jimmy Bogle from the Coachella Valley Independent, not only a good friend, but a collaborator here on KGAY. He contributes to our on-air work and what we do online as well. Both of them are being honored by the Human Rights Commission in Palm Springs with the Humanitarian Awards, among many other people. I myself was a recipient of the award a few years ago, and I just want to quickly plug that on Wednesday, we're doing a little gathering for our team, including DJ Galaxy at Trunk's Bar. But I want to acknowledge the
Is
entire...
that just for your team or your friends and fans?
Open to the public.
Where and when?
5 o'clock at Trunk's on Wednesday evening.
The 16th.
The 16th of February.
February. Most people watch my shows after the fact forever.
Exactly.
So if you missed it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. But we've assembled a wonderful team here. We continue to expand the team. I'm working on the diversity part of what I do with my staff, because the company's not as diverse as I would like it to be. But for those who are with us, I just want to acknowledge each and every one of them for making the great contributions and really helping make a difference in the community. Look, we put on our pom-poms every day for Palm Springs between KGAY and Gay Desert Guide. We aren't reporting hard news. We're reporting the good things that are happening in our community. Now, during COVID, we had to report some tough things. We had to get Dr. Laura Rush on the air and talk about how to stay safe, et cetera. But primarily, we are talking about the good, and there's so much good happening in the Coachella Valley and Greater Palm Springs. And I just love writing those postcards about Palm Springs to the world.
Well, and people can listen to KGAY 106.5 Palm Springs by just asking their smart speaker to play it. It's on the iHeartRadio platform, correct?
Yes. iHeartRadio, TuneIn, all the platforms. But sometimes Siri gets a little difficult. So sometimes we have to trick her. We have to say, Siri, play KGAY.
Yeah, I do that. I've learned that. You have to actually say the letters specifically, or she doesn't necessarily know what you're talking about.
Well, I don't think she wants. I think maybe I don't want to call her homophobic, but maybe she doesn't like the G word. I don't know. KGAY.
Well, my Siri happens to be an Australian male, and he loves he loves honoring my requests.
Well, that's fine. Good for
you. You were talking about your staff, and I just want to give a particular shout out to John Taylor. He is so talented. I couldn't begin to master all the technology that he needs to master to do what he does, but he has such a loving, warm, approachable, quick-witted, humanitarian approach to the way that he does his morning show, and that's when I am most likely going to be listening to KGAY, because I love all of the local information. So I wanted to, in particular, give a shout
Yeah,
out to
and if
him.
I may, John and I met through our FOD, our Friends of Dorothy radio group, back in the 90s when I was in Cincinnati, Ohio. We worked for the same company, but he was in Worcester, Massachusetts. I was in Cincinnati. I happened to go and had to go to Worcester for business. And there he was on my roster of our LGBT group FOD. I'm like, hey, John, I'm going to be in town. We should get together and say hi. We've become friends over the years, and now we actually work together.
Well, that's amazing, and I'm glad we're all here doing what we're doing, and we are so fortunate to live in the Coachella Valley because it is an LGBTQ plus mecca, and there are people who are listening to KGAY around the world that might even be living in places where they are risking their life by identifying as LGBTQ. So that's one of the reasons I do the work that I do, because the world doesn't have the freedoms that Palm Springs have. And our work isn't done until everyone has those freedoms.
Exactly. Thank you, Nicholas.
Well, thank you, Brad. It's been wonderful to talk with you. And I'm sure you have a million things to do today, right?
Yeah, it's a busy day. It's Valentine's Day, so no date for me tonight. But nonetheless,
Another thing that something else that they call Valentine's Day?
what? Singles Appreciation
Singles Awareness Day.
Awareness Day. Singles
Yeah,
Awareness
Singles Awareness Day. Yeah, I want to throw chocolate at someone today. That's what I'll do. Thank
Well,
you.
Nicholas,
Thank
thank
you.
you for what you do, and I appreciate you having me on today.
You're welcome. You can sit tight for a moment and I'll say hello to you after the show. And for those of you watching, I have all kinds of episodes coming up. I did 5 last week. I have 5 this week. And I'm moving into prime time. And also, we have some more comments. We have Al Delts, who says Happy Valentine's,
Thank
Brad.
you, Al.
So all kinds of programming coming up, and I'm moving the programming into prime time within the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.